There we go.
There we
We
go.
are ready. So listen, welcome to our nonprofit leaders. If you're here, which I see you are, can you please add a comment that just says, I'm here so I know who's here, even though I might not be able to see it immediately. I'm Nancy Manning. For those of you who do not know me, I'm founder of Power Your Mission and Austin Nonprofit Meetup. And today, our guest is Dan Schepleng, President and CCO of Kapowza. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hey, Dan, what is CCO? Is that
Chief Creative Officer. It just means that I have the largest mustache, the largest beret, and I'm the most pretentious. That's the
okay? Okay. So tell us first what type of work that Kapowza does for nonprofits.
Sure. So Kapowza is a what's called a full service creative agency. We have an office in Baltimore and I'm in Los Angeles. We work everywhere in between, but we are on the creative side for everything nonprofit. That means videos, commercials, campaigns, social media, websites, branding, collateral, anything and everything we can do to get the story out and to help spread the word about a nonprofit. Either that is issue-driven work or that is fundraising-driven work. We've done a lot of both, and we just find the work super fulfilling. And yeah, so we're primarily on that creative side of the marketing, pyramid.
You mentioned branding, and I know that's a hard concept for some of us. Do you help nonprofits figure that out, how to brand themselves?
Absolutely. There's a handful of exercises and ways you can talk through that strategically, a lot of questions you can ask. Most of the time, everyone already knows who their brand is. Just everyone in the organization has a different idea.
Oh.
And so, one person may think it's this, another person may think it's that. And it's a lot of just unifying the message and the messaging into one cohesive strategy. And so that's just usually being a mediator in the sense of just hearing everyone out and everyone kind of agreeing on the actual brand, both visually and how it speaks, how it moves, what it does, what it doesn't do, and everything that is necessary to tell a good story.
Okay, I just figured out how to see comments. I'm so excited that I
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so Jeff is here and Cindy is here. Thanks.
Hi, Jeff.
Guys. All right, so in working with nonprofits, have you found any common issues that nonprofits have in delivering a compelling message?
I think it's two sides of the same problem. And so a lot of nonprofits have a very, very interesting story because they're usually founded around an issue that somebody was very passionate about. And they get everyone else passionate and everyone is there for a mission. It's not like to increase shareholder value or sell more bank customers. It's like we're trying to support younger folks with cancer. Like that's a huge mission. And so the challenge is they either don't realize how interesting that is, or the converse is they think it's more interesting than it actually is because it's interesting to them. And so it's just kind of the gauge of how interesting something is. But most nonprofits have a very interesting story to tell. They're ripe for really great work, especially on like the video side, very simple stuff. And it's just they need that third party to just go, no, this is the interesting part. Like how you do it is very fascinating, but there's an emotional core to this that is the why, and your why is very fascinating and will grab people by the heart.
The why, like Simon Sinek's.
Yeah.
The TED Talk about that's the critical piece is why are you doing what you're doing, and you're helping people tap into that and then articulate it in the message, right?
Yeah, most nonprofits have an extremely compelling why. And if you can sum that up in one sentence, Oh, what do you do? Oh, well, we solve X, or we help X, or we help new mothers who are potentially unhoused. Like, that's a very specific segment, and it's a problem I can understand, and I can see all the problems, but you're coming at it from this is what we're solving. This is how we're helping. This is how we're contributing. And nonprofits are really the nets of society to kind of catch what's fallen through the cracks, in a sense, where, there's not a government program for this. The private institution has failed. And the only people there to save the rest of us is the safety net of nonprofits. And so that compelling why, and just using that consistency over and over again. And then every nonprofit has the same problem, is budget, because every dollar spent on marketing is one less dollar spent helping whoever they're helping, or it's not directly related to the cause. So we take that to heart. And so, like, every time we do something, it's a lot of like, well, would we spend this money on that? If this was our money, would we spend it on a new logo? Would we spend it on a social media campaign? We do a lot of work with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and we do, whenever we're doing a social campaign, it's always a question that we have internally, is like, would we spend our money on this media budget to make sure that it's worth it? Because, like, we think about it, like, every dollar spent is theoretically a dollar that isn't being used directly to the cause, but a lot of times this marketing can 10x the calls, or 10x the dollars, or 10x the influence or awareness of a particular issue. I'm sure everyone's aware of a lot of these issues, but some of them are super specific. We worked with an organization that was specific to South America, and they were trying to give land rights back to indigenous cultures because they were better stewards than any government could be, keeping that land in great condition, because they've been on that land for generations, for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so, it's a very specific issue that none of us would think about. And until we dove into it, we made a video about it. It was very simple. We took footage that they already had, and we cut something together with text, and we made it a very emotional, like, logically talking about it, how I'm talking about it now. Like, don't you think this would be a better use of this land? And it did really well, and Leo retweeted it. So that's, I can now say that I've worked with Leonardo DiCaprio, because he retweeted one of our videos. I'm gonna get that tweet framed. But, like, again, it's a very specific issue. Like, sure, we're all aware that drunk driving exists when you talk about Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but land rights usage for indigenous peoples in South America, like, it's very specific, but it's still important because that's how they're protecting that land. And so I hope I answered the question.
Yes, I'm just curious as to what was the purpose of that video that they created. What were they, because that's something too about, I did a communication workshop a couple of years ago about how to develop a strategic communications plan, how to identify the audience, how to understand the needs of the audience, how to deliver messages, how to get them to act, So I was thinking of that when you were talking about the South American indigenous issues. What were they trying to do with that message?
Well, it's an organization called Rights and Resources, and it was really incredible to work on. That particular goal was to raise awareness. It's always either awareness or fundraising. And sometimes it's both. In some cases, it's like, we want people to know about this issue. We want people to take action on a government level, or take action on a local level, or just to understand. We worked on something the last couple of weeks that was about hepatitis C and the opioid epidemic. And hepatitis C is actually curable. It's a course of a pill for 12 weeks. And you can cure it, and you won't ever have the awful things that come with late stage hepatitis C. And so that is less about donations. That's about awareness to get local government funding this program. It's like, we can cure this. We can solve this. It's like, how many diseases can we cure? Like, that word is not tossed around a lot. And so that is about action. That is about awareness. So it's action, awareness, or fundraising, or both. And that's pretty much where it all falls into.
So with both of those, raising awareness and fundraising, one of the last questions I was going to ask you is what guidance can you provide to nonprofits that will prompt their audience to stop the scroll and lean into the message? Well, I feel like I'm hearing you say in both of those settings, whether it's raising awareness or fundraising, that it's the compelling stories that you have to find that hook somehow. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you think about these messages or you think about these campaigns, imagine that people are only going to remember 10% of what you wrote or what you did or what you put together. I mean, how much did you remember about the show you watched last night, that you chose to watch, that you put the show on Netflix and you watched the whole thing? Can you quote every line? Probably not. You remember the basic gist. And that's something you chose to watch. Now think about advertising. This isn't something you're choosing to watch. This is usually some kind of tax or interruption, or it's something that was unsolicited. Very rarely do people go out of their way to look for advertising. I do, because it's a job and I like it. It's interesting when it's done really well. But remember, they're only going to remember a little percentage of that. And so what percentage what do you want them to remember? What's the one thing from each piece, each communication, each campaign that you want them to walk away with? One thing, one very, very clear thing, and always lead with emotion. Lead with emotion and lead with honesty, because people, they're smart. They see a lot of ads, and we see a lot of ads. I think it's something like 7,000 ads a day or something like that, because there are so many opportunities to be advertised to. And like, I mean, look at the platform of where this is happening. Facebook is one of the largest advertisers on the planet. And we're very sophisticated audience members of advertising. We're very sophisticated. Imagine if you saw 7,000 movies a day, how good you would be at this is a good movie or a bad movie. That's the level of experience we all have consuming ads. And so just remembering that they're only going to remember a little bit, remembering that if you lead with emotion and you lead with honesty, people can tell. People can tell when you're being honest. People can tell when you're leading with emotion. And people, you know, you can't pull the wool over people's eyes and even sugarcoat the truth. You have to tell the truth.
I heard you say previously on a podcast that real truth is always interesting.
It is. It is always interesting. Like everyone's truth is more interesting than some sugar-coated soft lie. And so if you look at the truth as to why anyone does anything, it's usually people are interesting and to other people. And if you can be truthful in the way you speak, truthful in the way you communicate and act, you know, not only do you become a trustworthy brand, but you also are more interesting than the brand next door that's saying, hey, you know, we have the best pizza in the world. Remember when Domino's came out with that campaign that said, hey guys, our pizza's awful, but we're gonna fix it. That was the greatest thing ever. And they went from like number 10 to number 1 because they were honest and everyone knew the truth. It's the truth that everyone in the room knew that Domino's was not great pizza. And they pointed it out, and then they solved the issue, and then they promoted that they pointed out and solved the issue. Like, it was brilliant. Can you imagine being the agency that pitched that? Like, hey, thank you, Domino's. We're here to tell you your pizza's awful, and you should tell everyone about it. But that's their truth. That's the truth there. And so any nonprofit, like, you know, just think of the name Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Just like think about that for a second, the name. There's so much truth to that. Like there's a story in that name. Like we can already surmise that a mother has been the victim of drunk driving by losing a child. That's like with just that name. And so that's the truth there. And that's why we remember the name Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
All right, well, you know what? We ran out of time so quick, I wasn't even watching her. Was it too interested? So basically, what we're saying is that what's going to get people to stop scrolling and lean into your message is a true, compelling, honest story.
Yes.
Has an emotional hook to it.
And notice at no point during any of this did I talk about budget. At no point did I say, well, you have to spend at least, you know, $10,000 on your production, et cetera, et cetera. We have these now. And our phones are the best source of that, of getting that truth out there. I mean, 20 years ago, we all had to get on like a gateway webcam and no one could watch it because broadband was too slow. But now, we made a commercial for Almond Foundation. It was shot only with a cell phone. And it's one of my favorite things we've ever done. And we just wandered around with a cell phone. We had a story, we had a script, we had music around it. And it's still to this day, like the most impactful work I feel like I've ever done, because I think about it all the time. And so, but that budget was nothing. It's not about the budget. It's like about the story and the honesty.
Right. So basically, a lot of our nonprofits run programs, and if you're there with a phone and you're watching the program in action, that's a great opportunity to observe the program, video the program, and maybe talk to the people involved in that program, the clients that are receiving that service.
Right. Social media is free. Like, it's like all of these things are free. We all have like, you can't exist in the world without a phone. They all come with cameras, and most of these cameras are great. And so talk to your audience, make videos, make content often. Don't be worried about bothering people because they chose to follow you. If you were bothering them, they'll just unfollow you. And so make content often, be honest and open and build things publicly. I think, we have, and pick one social media channel to just like, that's where my audience is. That's where I'm going to be good. It may be Facebook, it may be Instagram, it may be TikTok. Like, learn that channel, become a consumer of that channel, and then make content basically how you see communicated on that channel. It's not, none of this is complicated, but it's not easy, because it's like weight loss. It's just like, eat less and work out more. Like, it can't be that easy. No, eat less and work out more, but it is. It's just, you have to do it over time.
Yes. Well, Dan, thank you so much. And thank you folks for showing up today. Before we end, I just want to ask you to join us next Tuesday for my guest, Angela Osborne. She's the Chief Development and Communications Officer at Austin Humane Society, and she's going to help us learn to find your organization's voice. Thank you for taking your time. Dan, that was great, and I will add your contact information into the comments. I'm assuming people can reach out to you if they have questions or want to learn more about the services that you can provide to nonprofits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's any questions that I didn't answer, or anyone is curious why my coffee mug is so tiny, Dan at Kapowza. I just like the idea that I'm like a giant and this is like a normal size coffee mug. That's what I told you. But Dan at kapowza.co.co. We're gonna buy the .com later this year. It goes on sale in like November, so nobody buy it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.